What if I told you that one of the most powerful minerals your body depends on every single moment of every single day, the mineral that steadies your heartbeat, relaxes your tense muscles, quiets an overactive nervous system, keeps your blood sugar in balance, and powers energy production inside every single cell of your body, is also one that millions of people around the world are silently, unknowingly missing? It's not rare. It's not expensive. You don't need some obscure, hard-to-pronounce supplement shipped from across the world to get enough of it. The truth is far simpler than that. The nutrient-rich foods that naturally deliver this mineral, the seeds, the grains, the legumes, the ancient crops our grandparents and great-grandparents ate without ever thinking twice, have quietly disappeared from the modern plate. Today we live surrounded by more food than any generation in human history, more snacks, more drinks, more prepackaged meals, more endless options filling every aisle of every store. And yet, despite all this abundance, so many people wrestle with lingering fatigue, constant tension, restlessness, muscle cramps that strike in the middle of the night, and sleep that never quite refreshes them. They cannot understand why their bodies feel like they are perpetually stuck running on a nearly empty battery. Severe depletion of this mineral has a medical name in the modern world. It is called hypomagnesemia. But our ancestors had a far simpler word for magnesium-rich foods. They called it dinner. Long before white flour, refined sugar, and ultra-processed snacks took over the human diet, people ate the most nutrient-dense portions of plants. The seeds, the outer skins, the leafy greens, and the beans. They preserved and treasured exactly the parts that the modern food system now strips away and throws in the trash. And this, quietly, may be one of the greatest nutritional mistakes of our entire era. Magnesium participates in more than 300 enzymatic reactions inside the human body. Your system relies on it to generate energy, to build proteins, to regulate the contraction and relaxation of your muscles, to stabilize the electrical signals in your nerves, to support insulin function, to maintain strong bones, and to sustain a steady, reliable heart rhythm. When your magnesium levels begin to fall, your body does not always sound a loud, urgent alarm. More often, the warning signs are quiet and easy to dismiss. A random twitch under your eyelid, a calf cramp that wakes you in the darkness, shallow, unsatisfying sleep, that strange sensation of feeling wired and exhausted at the same time, an almost overwhelming craving for chocolate, sudden irritability that appears out of nowhere and makes no sense. But here is the detail almost everyone overlooks. Simply glancing at a nutrition chart to see which foods contain magnesium is not nearly enough. You have to ask much deeper questions. How much of this food would you actually eat on a regular basis? How much of that magnesium can your body genuinely absorb and use? Is the food clean and whole? Has it been prepared in a way that unlocks its minerals and makes them available to your cells? Are you eating it as part of a balanced whole food meal, or are you eating it alongside a heavily processed diet that drains nutrients out of your body faster than they can ever be replaced? That is exactly why today I am sharing 20 plant-based foods that are naturally rich in magnesium. This is not just a dry list of numbers pulled from a database. We are going to explore their history, the ancient traditional wisdom that surrounds them, the reasons our ancestors treasured these crops, and simple, practical ways to bring them back into your everyday life. Stay with me until the end. Number 7 is a leafy green that ancient soldiers depended on to maintain their strength centuries before science ever identified electrolytes. Number 19 is a plant that most gardeners rip out of the ground and toss in the trash as a common weed, even though it ranks among the most underappreciated mineral-dense greens on the entire planet. And number 20 is a crop so deeply tied to food independence and survival that a colonial empire once tried to erase it from the face of history entirely. Now, this is not medical advice. Food is not a miracle cure, and no single plant can ever replace professional medical care when you are facing a serious health concern. But nutrition forms the very foundation of human health. When that foundation grows weak and cracked, every single system in your body begins to struggle. So let us begin. Number 1, pumpkin seeds. Think of them as a portable mineral pharmacy you can hold in the palm of your hand. If any plant food on earth deserves far more recognition than it gets, it is the humble pumpkin seed. A single small handful delivers roughly 150 milligrams of magnesium. That is a genuinely impressive amount for something most people overlook completely. Every single autumn, families carve their pumpkins, scoop out the seeds, and throw away one of the most mineral-rich parts of the entire plant. They keep the decorative shell and discard the actual nourishment. Older food cultures never made that mistake. They dried the seeds, roasted them, and stored them carefully to carry them through the long, cold winter months. They did not do this because they had read scientific studies about magnesium. They learned through generations of experience that the most nourishing foods often arrive in the smallest packages. Magnesium's role here is absolutely critical. It allows your muscles to relax after they contract. It prevents your nerves from becoming overstimulated. It supports energy production inside your cells, and it aids in the metabolism of glucose. This is precisely why low magnesium levels are so frequently linked to insulin resistance and blood sugar imbalances. The practical takeaway could not be simpler. A small serving of raw or lightly roasted pumpkin seeds can dramatically boost the mineral content of nearly any meal. Toss them into your morning oatmeal, sprinkle them over soups and salads, or just eat them plain by the handful. Simply avoid the versions coated in cheap oils, excessive salt, and artificial flavorings, because those processed variations lead you right back to the very food system responsible for widespread deficiency. Treat pumpkin seeds like the compact mineral reserve your ancestors would never have dreamed of wasting. Number 2. Chia seeds, the ancient endurance fuel. Long before chia became a trendy topping on expensive smoothie bowls, indigenous communities relied on these tiny seeds as travel food. Lightweight, easy to carry, and capable of sustaining energy through the harshest of conditions. The Tarahumara people of northern Mexico are legendary for their extraordinary long-distance running across brutal canyon terrain, and chia was one of their essential endurance foods. These nearly weightless little seeds are astonishingly dense with nutrients. Just 1 ounce of chia holds upwards of 100 milligrams of magnesium, along with fiber, omega-3 fatty acids, calcium, and plant protein. What makes chia truly remarkable is how it reacts to liquid. It forms a soft gel. This gel slows down digestion, encourages a lasting sense of fullness, and allows for a steady, gradual absorption of nutrients. This matters enormously because magnesium is essential for energy metabolism. Your body requires it to produce ATP, the primary energy molecule that fuels every single cell you have. 2 tablespoons of chia stirred into water, yogurt, oats, or a smoothie is one of the simplest healthy habits you could ever build. No cooking, no complicated recipes, just a tiny daily ritual that quietly connects you to a food that once helped entire communities cross mountain ranges on foot. After European conquest, countless indigenous staple crops were suppressed, dismissed, or replaced. Foods that had sustained entire thriving civilizations were labeled primitive purely because they belonged to conquered peoples. Very often, we did not lose these nutrient-dense foods because they failed us. We lost them because history simply pushed them aside. Chia carries ancient endurance wisdom that somehow survived long enough to return to our modern kitchens. And before we continue, if you are finding value in this video, take just 2 seconds to hit that subscribe button and tap the notification bell so you never miss what comes next. Every single week we dive deep into forgotten foods, traditional wisdom, and ancestral nutrition overlooked by the modern world. It costs you nothing, and it genuinely helps this channel keep creating. Now let us move forward, because the remaining 18 plants on this list hold even more fascinating stories. Number 3. Almonds, the traveler's nourishment. Almond trees appear again and again throughout the ancient world. In sacred texts, along Mediterranean trade routes, in the lush gardens of Persia, and in the travel provisions of pilgrims and wanderers. People valued almonds not just for their taste, but for their remarkable shelf stability. Long before refrigeration and store-bought protein bars, any food that could travel for weeks while still supplying energy, minerals, healthy fats, and protein was considered incredibly precious. 1 ounce of almonds contains roughly 75 to 80 milligrams of magnesium, paired beautifully with vitamin E, manganese, fiber, and heart-friendly monounsaturated fats. Together, these nutrients make almonds a wonderfully stabilizing snack, especially when you swap them in for refined, processed treats. Magnesium supports balanced insulin signaling, improves how your body processes glucose, and helps calm an overactive nervous system. But here is a gentle word of caution. Modern wellness culture has a habit of taking a beneficial food and turning it into an overconsumed trend. Almond flour, almond milk, almond butter, endless almond-based products stacked on every shelf. Too much of any single food creates imbalance in the body. Traditional wisdom always, without exception, prioritized variety. So eat a small handful, not an endless bag. Whenever you can, choose raw or dry roasted almonds. Soaking them overnight can actually improve their digestibility and reduce the anti-nutrients that quietly block mineral absorption. See almonds as compact, ancient nourishment, crafted by nature to keep human bodies steady and strong on long, difficult journeys. Number 4. Cashews, the calming nut. Cashews carry a gentle sweetness, a creamy texture, and a satisfying richness that somehow never leaves you feeling heavy or overloaded. This is a big part of what makes them one of the most approachable magnesium-rich foods for almost everyone. A single ounce of cashews provides roughly 70 to 80 milligrams of magnesium. Cashew trees originated in Brazil, and the native communities there used far more than just the nut itself. The fruit, the bark, and other parts of the plant all held a respected place in local healing practices. When an entire culture learns to use nearly every part of a plant, it reflects countless generations of careful observation confirming its true value. Magnesium plays a key role in regulating the movement of calcium inside your nerve cells. When your nervous system remains overstimulated, you feel tense, reactive, and completely unable to unwind. Magnesium does not act like a pharmaceutical sedative, but it quietly creates the biological conditions your body needs for natural, genuine relaxation. A small handful of cashews in the mid-afternoon can be a far wiser choice than reaching for yet another cup of coffee. Caffeine pushes your body deeper into overdrive, while magnesium supports calm, balanced function. So use cashews mindfully, blend them into creamy sauces, add them to a stir-fry, or slowly savor a small handful. Think of cashews as a gentle mineral source, quietly supporting the health of your nervous system from the inside out. Number 5. Flaxseed, the seed that endured through civilizations. Flax is among the very oldest cultivated crops in all of human history. The ancient Egyptians grew it. Greek physicians carefully documented its benefits. European farmers raised it faithfully for thousands of years. For century after century, flax supplied both fabric for clothing and true nourishment, serving as food and as natural medicine at the very same time. 1 tablespoon of ground flax seed delivers around 35 to 40 milligrams of magnesium, plus fiber, omega-3 fatty acids, and lignans, the plant compounds studied for their effects on inflammation and hormone balance. But here is one absolutely critical detail. Flax must be ground. Whole flax seeds very often pass straight through your digestive tract, completely intact, locking every bit of their nutrition inside where your body simply cannot reach it. The exact same food can either deeply nourish you or pass through entirely unused, and the only difference is preparation. That is one of the core lessons of ancestral eating. Traditional food culture was never only about choosing quality ingredients. Techniques like grinding, soaking, fermenting, and cooking were not merely culinary flair. They were a form of deep nutritional intelligence. So stir ground flaxseed into your oatmeal, yogurt, smoothies, or soups. Keep it refrigerated after grinding, because its natural oils oxidize very quickly. View flaxseed as ancient survival wisdom condensed into a single spoonful, a reminder that the smallest daily habits carry an immense biological impact over time. Number 6. Spinach, the leafy green that deserves renewed respect. Spinach feels so familiar to us, and it is precisely that familiarity that causes us to overlook its true power. Its plain, simple packaging on grocery store shelves completely hides a dramatic and ancient history. Persian communities cherished spinach deeply. Arab traders carried it across continents. European kitchens embraced it fully. For hundreds of years, spinach was treated as serious nourishment, never as a mere decorative garnish. Half a cup of cooked spinach holds roughly 75 to 80 milligrams of magnesium. And cooking genuinely matters here. A huge, overflowing pile of raw spinach wilts down into a small but concentrated serving of dense nutrients. Heat also lowers oxalic acid, a compound that binds to minerals and limits how well your body can absorb them. Just because a plant contains magnesium does not automatically guarantee that your body can actually absorb and use it. Preparation truly changes everything. So aim for lightly cooked spinach, ideally paired with a source of healthy fat to boost your nutrient uptake even further. Rather than forcing down endless bowls of raw salad, add it to your soups, sauté it with olive oil and garlic, fold it into your morning eggs, Make spinach a genuine core part of your meal, not just a limp side pile of raw leaves pushed to the edge of the plate. Spinach is a celebrated green that deserves to be prepared thoughtfully and respected once more as real, meaningful nourishment. Number 7. Swiss chard, the warrior's green. Swiss chard looks almost like a painting come to life, with its deep green foliage and vivid glowing stems in shades of red, yellow, orange, and white. It appears striking enough to feel purely ornamental, and yet it sits overlooked in countless modern kitchens. Cooked Swiss chard offers magnesium levels comparable to spinach, around 70 to 80 milligrams per half cup. It carries an earthy, robust, mineral-forward flavor. This is no delicate, timid green. It tastes of soil, of sunlight, of rain, and of honest labor. Mediterranean communities valued chard for many centuries. Laborers, farmers, soldiers, and entire families relied on it to build genuine strength from the simplest of ingredients. They never spoke of magnesium or electrolytes, but they observed something clear and undeniable. The people who regularly ate these greens seemed to maintain greater stamina and endurance. Like spinach, chard contains oxalates, so cooking it is essential to unlock its full benefits. Heat softens those tough leaves, reduces the anti-nutrient compounds, and transforms a rugged green into a deeply satisfying dish. Sauté it with garlic, stir it into a hearty bean soup, or cook the stems slowly with onions and olive oil. Just remember that the stems require slightly longer cooking than the tender leaves do. Swiss chard faded from modern tables for one simple reason: it asks something of us. You cannot just tear open a bag and serve it raw. You have to cook it, to engage with it, to give it a little care. And that, honestly, is exactly why we need it back in our lives. Swiss chard is the warrior's green, a plant that demands a little heat before it willingly shares its strength with you. Number 8. Black beans, the crop that built civilizations. Some foods simply fill your stomach for an hour. Others help sustain entire societies across generations. Black beans belong firmly in that second category. Across Mesoamerica, beans formed part of an ingenious agricultural system that is still admired by scientists today. The three sisters, corn, beans, and squash, grown together in perfect symbiosis. The corn gave the beans a sturdy stalk to climb. The beans fixed nitrogen into the earth to feed the soil. The squash spread wide across the ground to retain precious moisture and block out weeds. This was far more than farming. It was intentional, brilliant ecology. Half a cup of cooked black beans contains roughly 50 to 60 milligrams of magnesium, alongside fiber, plant protein, potassium, iron, and slow-digesting carbohydrates. But the greatest strength of black beans lies in how powerfully they support your gut health. Their fiber feeds the beneficial bacteria in your gut, which in turn produce short-chain fatty acids that protect your intestinal lining and improve your overall mineral absorption. Black beans do not merely supply magnesium, they help create an internal environment where your body can actually use minerals far more effectively. Soaking, rinsing, and cooking them thoroughly reduces the hard-to-digest compounds. Traditional cultures soak their beans out of hard-won wisdom, never out of mindless habit. Enjoy them in soups, stews, and grain bowls, simply seasoned with garlic, onion, herbs, and quality salt. Black beans stand as a quiet foundation of food sovereignty, nourishing the people, enriching the soil, and supporting long-term survival, all at the very same time. Number 9. Edamame, the green soybean linked to longevity. Japanese food wisdom so often hides inside the simplest, most uncomplicated dishes. Minimal preparation, seasonal produce, modest portions, and a deep respect for balance and consistency. Edamame fits perfectly within this beautiful tradition. Young green soybeans, steamed lightly right in their pods and seasoned with just a touch of salt, have been enjoyed for countless generations. Half a cup of edamame delivers approximately 45 to 50 milligrams of magnesium, plus complete plant protein, folate, vitamin K, and fiber. That term, complete protein, matters greatly. Most plant foods lack sufficient levels of one or more essential amino acids, but soybeans contain all 9 of them, which makes them absolutely invaluable for plant-focused diets. Unlike countless heavily processed soy products crowding store shelves, edamame remains beautifully close to its natural form. You see the whole pod. You steam it, you shell it, and you eat it slowly, one bean at a time. And that slowness is genuinely meaningful. Modern food is deliberately engineered for mindless, rapid consumption, but edamame naturally slows you right down, letting your body actually register the nourishment bite by bite. Simply steam frozen edamame for a few short minutes, season it with a little sea salt, and enjoy it as an appetizer or a light snack. Edamame holds real longevity wisdom tucked inside a humble green pod, standing as living proof that powerful nourishment does not require any complexity at all. Number 10. Lima beans, the unfairly misunderstood treasure. Lima beans might just be the most wrongly judged food in the entire modern diet. For so many people, childhood memories involve overcooked, mushy, bland lima beans served without any real seasoning at all. And because of that one bad experience, entire generations turned away from this mineral-rich staple that was once respected by ancient civilizations. Half a cup of lima beans provides roughly 40 milligrams of magnesium, plus potassium, fiber, iron, and steady-release carbohydrates. They were cultivated across the Americas for thousands of years. The Inca and other Andean communities survived brutally harsh mountain climates thanks to carefully developed staple crops, and beans sat right at the center of that survival system. The flaw was never ever the lima bean itself, it was simply poor cooking. Properly prepared lima beans are creamy, satisfying, and deeply nourishing, so soak them, cook them just until tender rather than mushy, and season them generously with garlic, onion, herbs, olive oil, and good salt. Give them the very same care and attention you would happily give to any trendy vegetable, and you will be genuinely, pleasantly surprised. Lima beans are an underrated mineral storehouse, abandoned not for any fault of their own, but simply because we collectively forgot how to cook them well. And now we have reached the halfway mark. If this video is beginning to shift the way you view everyday food, take just a moment to hit subscribe and turn on those notifications. We explore ancestral crops, longevity strategies, and forgotten nutritional knowledge every single week. If you have been watching all this time without subscribing, right now is the perfect moment. It takes 1 second, it costs absolutely nothing, and it truly supports this channel so we can keep creating. 10 more plants are still waiting for you, including a wild weed growing in gardens everywhere, a food once banned outright by an empire, and several picks that just might completely change the way you shop for groceries. Number 11. Quinoa, the seed of recovery and rebuilding. The Inca named quinoa the mother of all grains, even though technically it is a seed rather than a true grain. This distinction genuinely matters because quinoa's nutritional profile sets it far apart from most ordinary cereal crops. Half a cup of cooked quinoa contains roughly 55 to 60 milligrams of magnesium, plus all 9 essential amino acids, fiber, manganese, phosphorus, and iron. This is exactly what made quinoa so indispensable in high-altitude regions, where communities needed crops resilient enough to survive bitter cold and poor, thin soil. Quinoa was food for strength, for recovery, and for the repair of the body itself. Modern science now explains precisely why. Magnesium supports protein synthesis, and quinoa conveniently supplies both magnesium and complete plant protein at once. This natural pairing makes it ideal for anyone building or maintaining muscle, recovering from chronic stress, or simply swapping out refined starches for a genuinely nutrient-dense alternative. Always rinse quinoa thoroughly before cooking to wash away the naturally occurring bitter saponins on its surface. Cook it gently and use it in place of rice or oats. Long before quinoa ever became fashionable in trendy restaurants, it was sacred mountain nourishment. Quinoa is the rebuilding seed, carried faithfully through the centuries by communities who understood that survival depends on crops hardy enough to grow where easier foods could never thrive. Number 12. Avocado, the fruit of vitality. The avocado is so often treated like some recent wellness fad, and yet its true history stretches back thousands upon thousands of years. Long before avocado toast ever rose to fame, Mesoamerican cultures viewed avocados as a food that powerfully supported strength, vitality, and overall wellness. One whole avocado contains roughly 50 to 60 milligrams of magnesium, and that is honestly only the beginning. It also delivers potassium, fiber, and heart-healthy monounsaturated fats. Put simply, avocados actually improve how your body puts other foods to use. The pairing of magnesium and potassium is especially valuable. Magnesium encourages your blood vessels to relax and open, while potassium counteracts the effect of sodium on your blood pressure. Working together, they support your cardiovascular health in a way that is both simple and profound. For decades, Outdated and misguided nutrition advice urged people to fear dietary fat, and the poor avocado suffered unfairly under that heavy misconception. But your body absolutely requires healthy fats to absorb fat-soluble vitamins, to build essential hormones, and to form the very membranes of your cells. The problem was never whole food fats. The real problem was industrial food systems replacing natural ingredients with cheap, refined alternatives. So enjoy avocados seasoned with a little salt and fresh lime, add them to salads, or pair them with beans, eggs, leafy greens, and potatoes. They boost your sense of fullness, naturally softening those cravings for processed snacks. The avocado is the vitality fruit that somehow survived decades of misleading advice, enduring simply because the human body instinctively recognizes real nourishment when it finds it. Number 13. Potatoes with the skin, the food we blame for our own poor choices. The humble potato has earned itself a terribly unfair reputation, and honestly, it is not the potato's fault at all. We peel it, we deep fry it, we drown it in refined oil, we crush it into chips, we strip away its outer skin, and then we turn around and label the potato itself as unhealthy. But a whole potato, cooked with its skin fully intact, is an entirely different food. A medium potato with the skin holds approximately 40 to 50 milligrams of magnesium, alongside potassium, vitamin C, vitamin B6, fiber, and resistant starch, which becomes especially noticeable after the potato has been cooked and then cooled. That skin is absolutely vital. So much of the fiber and mineral content lives right there. When you peel a potato, you are removing far more than just texture. You are throwing away genuine, valuable nutrition. Andean farmers cultivated hundreds upon hundreds of unique potato varieties out of sheer necessity. They carefully selected the crops best suited for storage, resilience, and nourishment in a harsh mountain environment. For those people, potatoes were never junk food. They were essential agricultural technology. So bake your potatoes whole, or roast them, or boil them unpeeled. Chill your cooked potatoes and add them to salads to boost that resistant starch, which feeds your healthy gut bacteria beautifully. The potato did not become harmful growing quietly underground. It became a problem only once industrial processing turned it into a delivery vehicle for cheap oil and excessive salt. The whole potato is an unfairly maligned ancestral food, patiently waiting for you to simply stop peeling away its benefits. Number 14. Green peas, the quiet garden remedy. Green peas rarely grab anyone's attention. Mild, sweet, and endlessly familiar, they tend to sit beside our meals like a bit of gentle background music we barely notice. But it is very often these humble, everyday foods that sustain families through the hardest of times. Half a cup of green peas contains roughly 30 milligrams of magnesium. That number may not sound especially impressive on its own, and yet peas hold one enormous advantage. Almost anyone can eat them easily and consistently. And nutrition depends not only on nutrient density, but just as much on regular, repeated consumption over time. Within traditional European food culture, dried peas were a critical winter survival food. They could be preserved for months and transformed into hearty, warming soups when every fresh vegetable had long vanished from the land. Pea soup was never merely food for the poor. It was genuine nutritional insurance against the lean months. Grand feasts may have featured elaborate, glamorous dishes, but it was the simple, humble foods that quietly kept entire communities alive between celebrations. So keep a bag of frozen peas on hand to toss into rice, soups, stews, pasta, and grain bowls. They cook in mere minutes, adding a touch of natural sweetness and real nutrients with almost no effort at all. Green peas are the garden's quiet medicine, never flashy, never trendy, yet always ready to offer far more nourishment than most people ever realize. Number 15. Bananas, nature's first aid fruit. There is a very clear reason bananas became one of the most widely eaten fruits on the entire planet. They are portable, naturally packaged, sweet, and remarkably gentle on the digestive system. But their sheer convenience should never cause us to overlook their real benefits. A medium banana contains roughly 30 to 35 milligrams of magnesium, paired with potassium, vitamin B6, fiber, and a source of mild, natural energy. That combination of magnesium and potassium directly supports both muscle and nerve function. Many people only ever think about potassium when a painful muscle cramp suddenly strikes, and yet magnesium is working faithfully right alongside it. Your body never depends on isolated minerals working alone. It relies entirely on the balanced, coordinated interactions between many nutrients. Now, bananas are not ideal in unlimited quantities for everyone, especially for those carefully managing their blood sugar levels. But treating a whole natural banana as though it were identical to a piece of refined candy is a genuinely modern misunderstanding. A banana is simply not comparable to processed sugar. So eat one before physical activity. Mix it into your oatmeal, or pair it with a handful of nuts and seeds to curb those cravings for manufactured sweets. The banana is the original portable first aid fruit, instantly recognized by your body whenever it calls out for a little gentle energy and mineral support. Number 16. Papaya, the tropical digestive healer. Traditional healing systems across many separate regions of the world independently recognized papaya's value. Central America, East Africa, and Southeast Asia all arrived at similar conclusions. Tropical communities saw far more than a merely sweet fruit in papaya. They saw functional, purposeful nourishment. A small papaya delivers around 30 milligrams of magnesium, yet its most famous compound is papain, a powerful protein-digesting enzyme. This is exactly why papaya has long been connected with improved digestion. It does not only feed your body directly, it actively helps your gut process all the other foods you eat. And this matters enormously because magnesium absorption depends partly on the overall wellness of your digestive system. An inflamed or sluggish gut can quietly prevent the nutrients listed neatly on paper from ever actually reaching your cells at all. Eat your papaya raw because heat destroys those valuable, delicate enzymes. Add a bright squeeze of lime, enjoy it first thing in the morning, or blend it into a smoothie. Papaya is the tropical healer, gently reminding your digestive tract how to properly receive and use nourishment once again. Number 17. Blackberries, the hedgerow pharmacy. Long before pharmacies existed on every street corner, the wild hedgerows supplied people with natural medicine. Along the edges of fields and the boundaries of forests, thorny thickets marked out the borders of the land, stabilized the soil, sheltered wildlife, and produced abundant edible food. And among the most treasured of all these wild hedgerow crops were the blackberries. 1 cup of blackberries contains roughly 25 to 30 milligrams of magnesium. Compared to seeds and beans, that is admittedly a modest amount. But blackberries offer something extra and special. Deep purple anthocyanin antioxidants, researched for their role in supporting inflammation balance, cardiovascular health, and even cognitive function. And here is the critical layer that so many people miss entirely. Ongoing chronic inflammation actually increases your body's demand for magnesium, so a food that supplies magnesium while simultaneously lowering oxidative stress offers you far greater value than its raw mineral count alone could ever suggest. If you happen to have any outdoor space, grow blackberry bushes right along your fencing. If you safely and confidently know how to forage wild varieties, you can harvest them freely from nature. And when buying them, always choose fresh or frozen blackberries and avoid the ones drowning in added sugar. Blackberries are the hedgerow pharmacy, offering sweet nourishment growing exactly where the wild landscape meets the cultivated farmland. Number 18. Acorn squash, the winter storage staple. Winter squash was an absolutely vital preservation crop for indigenous communities all across North America. After the harvest, once the fresh greens had disappeared and the cold weather rolled in, the stored squash remained faithfully available, a genuine promise of nourishment carried through the harshest months of the year. 1 cooked cup of acorn squash provides roughly 60 milligrams of magnesium, alongside potassium, vitamin C, beta-carotene, fiber, and slow-release carbohydrates. It feels warming, grounding, and deeply, profoundly satisfying. Within that same Three Sisters growing system, the squash played a crucial role protecting the farm soil. Its broad, sprawling leaves shaded the ground, locking in moisture and suppressing unwanted weeds, while its fruit quietly stored energy for the months that lay ahead. True traditional agriculture was never about dominating or conquering the land. It was always about building balanced, respectful ecological relationships. So slice your acorn squash cleanly in half, scoop out the seeds, brush it with a little olive oil, season it with salt and herbs, then roast it slowly until it is tender and golden. You can eat it right out of the rind with a spoon. Modern supply chains have trained us to expect identical produce all year round, but winter squash gently teaches us seasonal awareness once more. There is a time to harvest, a time to store, and a time to finally eat the food that the earth prepared for us months earlier. Acorn squash is winter nourishment, a storage crop built by nature to deliver minerals and deep comfort straight through the cold season. Number 19. Purslane, the wild weed trying to heal you. This is our wild entry, the one plant that countless gardeners spot, rip out of the ground, and toss straight into the trash. Purslane grows low to the ground, with fleshy green leaves and reddish stems popping up in garden beds, in the cracks of pavement, and in disturbed soil, the very spaces most people write off as barren and worthless. And yet, all across the globe, from Mediterranean kitchens to Mexican markets to traditional Chinese medicine, purslane has long been treasured as both food and genuine medicine. Cooked purslane boasts impressive magnesium levels comparable to many far more popular leafy greens. It even contains plant-based omega-3 ALA, which is genuinely rare for a leafy vegetable. Add in antioxidants and potassium alongside its bright lemony flavor, and this so-called weed suddenly reveals itself as a real nutritional surprise. So how on earth did we ever forget purslane? Industrial agriculture strongly favors crops that can be tightly controlled, neatly packaged, and mass-distributed. If a plant grows freely and abundantly everywhere, and simply cannot be monopolized and folded into a corporate supply chain, it gets quietly labeled a weed. Not because it lacks any value, but purely because it lacks commercial profit potential. Many wonderful foods disappeared from our lives not because they were weak or useless, but ironically because they were far too resilient and far too free. Always positively and carefully identify purslane before ever eating it. Once you have confirmed it, toss the raw leaves into a salad, sauté them briefly, add them to soups, or cook them right alongside your eggs and vegetables. It may be called common, but common has never meant worthless. Very often, common simply means abundant and generous. Purslane is the weed that has been quietly trying to nourish you every single time you grab a hoe to clear out your garden. Number 20. Amaranth leaves, the banned plant that refused to disappear. And so we finally arrive at the crop with the most powerful history of all, amaranth. One cooked cup of amaranth leaves delivers roughly 70 milligrams of magnesium, plus calcium, iron, vitamin A, vitamin C, and a wealth of other essential minerals. Its seeds are rich in protein and can be used much like a grain. As a whole plant, amaranth ranks among the most complete ancestral foods anywhere on the entire earth, but its nutrition is honestly only half of its story. Within the Aztec civilization, amaranth was far more than simple food. It was sacred, woven deeply into cultural ceremonies, into identity, into strength, and into survival itself. When the Spanish colonizers arrived, they understood something dark and strategic, that destroying a community's staple food system was a way to break and weaken its entire culture. So amaranth farming was suppressed, and in some regions it was banned outright under the threat of harsh punishment. Just imagine a plant so culturally vital that an entire empire set out to erase it from existence, and still, somehow, it survived. It persisted in remote farm plots, quietly preserved by people who simply refused to abandon their traditions. Today it grows as leafy greens all across Africa, Asia, and the Americas, and even as an ornamental garden plant, admired for its striking beauty, while so many remain completely unaware of its true history. That is the very nature of amaranth. It does not vanish easily. Cook young amaranth leaves just as you would spinach or Swiss chard. Sauté them with garlic and oil, or add them into your soups and stews. The seeds can be simmered gently into a warming porridge. Grow it yourself if your climate will allow it. Amaranth reminds us that food is never simply fuel. Food holds memory, power, and independence within it. Communities able to grow their own nutrient-dense crops on their own land are far, far harder to control than populations left fully reliant on packaged goods shipped in from distant supply chains. Amaranth is the banned nourishment that refused to die, outlasting the very empire that once sought to erase it from history. 20 plants, 20 pathways leading back to forgotten mineral wisdom. Pumpkin seeds, chia, almonds, cashews, flaxseed, spinach, Swiss chard, black beans, edamame, lima beans, quinoa, avocado, potatoes with skin, green peas, bananas, papaya, blackberries, acorn squash, purslane, and amaranth. Some are ancient cultivated crops, some are everyday grocery staples, some are wild weeds growing right beneath your feet, some were once sacred, some were simply overlooked, and some were nearly erased entirely, yet all of them share the same fundamental truth. Magnesium deficiency is not merely an individual health problem. It is a crisis born directly from a broken food system. It happens when whole communities step away from whole plant foods, from the seeds, the skins, the leafy greens, and the legumes, and shift instead toward refined flour, sugar, processed oils, and convenient packaged meals. White sugar contains zero magnesium. Refined oils offer no magnesium whatsoever. White flour holds barely a trace compared to the whole grain it came from. And yet these very ingredients now form the entire foundation of the modern diet worldwide. We fill our stomachs while quietly starving ourselves. We eat constantly, and still we remain depleted. But the solution is not panic. The solution is simply to return. Return to seeds, return to leafy greens, return to beans, keep the potato skin intact. Learn to recognize the wild weeds your grandparents once gladly harvested. Revive the crops that sustained whole civilizations long before processed food ever convinced us that convenience somehow equaled nourishment. Start small. Swap the chips for a handful of pumpkin seeds. Stir ground flaxseed into your morning meal. Simmer some black beans on the stovetop. Cook spinach with garlic. Bake a potato without ever peeling it. Add ripe avocado to your plate. Keep frozen blackberries on hand. Cook amaranth greens the very same way families once prepared their spinach. This journey is not about perfection. It is not about letting food become a source of anxiety. And it is certainly not about chasing one single miracle plant. It is simply about remembering that the human body evolved to gather minerals steadily and consistently from whole foods, prepared thoughtfully and respected as a fundamental part of life itself. When you begin to make these changes, transformation genuinely follows. It may not appear instantly like magic, but the shift runs deep and true. Your nervous system feels less strained. Your muscles relax more easily. Sustainable, lasting energy quietly returns. Those uncontrolled cravings begin to soften. These ancient foods simply resume the very work they have always done. They nourish, they restore, and they reconnect you to natural nutrition. So the next time you see pumpkin seeds, do not just see a snack. See a portable mineral pharmacy resting in your palm. The next time you cook a pot of beans, do not dismiss them as mere comfort food. Recognize them as the foundation of ancient societies. The next time you leave the potato skins intact, treat it as a genuine act of nutritional respect. And the next time you spot wild greens sprouting up in your garden, pause for just a moment before pulling them out. And when someone insists that healthy eating is far too complicated, please remember this. The most powerful foods on earth are so often the simple ones, the ancient, humble ones, waiting patiently exactly where we left them, in our gardens, at market stalls, across farm fields, along the edges of pathways, and sometimes quietly growing right beneath our feet. If this video offered you something meaningful, a fresh perspective on your meals, a plant you now intend to try, or simply a gentle reminder of what genuine nourishment is truly supposed to feel like, then take one final action before you go. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notification alerts. Every single week, we explore ancestral foods, healing plants, and the nutritional wisdom that has been pushed aside by our modern, busy lives. There are so many people out there who genuinely need this information and simply have not discovered it yet. When you subscribe and share this video, you help it reach them. Leave a comment down below and tell me which plant surprised you the most. Was it the purslane sprouting quietly in your own yard, the potato you always peel without thinking, or the amaranth that survived an entire imperial ban? I truly read every single comment you leave. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the very next one.